All right, we're going to get started. So I'm just going to speak at you for a little bit as everybody finds their seat, and we're going to kick off this Black Hat Amsterdam 2014. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jeff Moss, the founder and creator of Black Hat, and I'm still involved in the show, and I take great pride in coming to every event, helping select speakers, helping drive the direction, and I really like the interaction with the audience. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what we've got planned for you before we introduce our keynote. Before we get started though, how many people here is this your first time to Black Hat? Let's see, raise your hand. So about half. Okay, so what I want you to do is, to those people who have been here before, feel free to ask questions, because really what we're trying to do with Black Hat is knowledge transfer, get you talking about things you don't know about, ask questions. If you don't know the answer to something, just say you don't know the answer. If the speaker's saying something you don't agree with, raise your hand and ask a question. This forum is not meant to be speakers lecturing the attendees. It's meant to be interactive, and it's meant to be a learning experience. So feel free to ask questions and just don't take it too seriously. Right? We're all in it together, and we're all trying to learn. And as an example of that, we have people from 68 different countries represented at this Black Hat. It's our largest Black Hat yet. Almost 800 people have signed up. Probably not all in this room are awake yet. But we have over 800 people showing up, and from 68 countries. And out of that, we have 17 people are the only representatives from their countries. And I'm just going to name a couple of countries. We have somebody from Brazil, Colombia, Ghana, Kuwait, Suriname, Ukraine. People travel from all over the world to get here. And I just want to remind you, you get out of this what you put into it. So take that time to make that social connection. This is our 14th year in Europe. We started in 2000, and now we've outgrown, unfortunately, we've outgrown the beautiful Grand Krasnopolski. But that's not going to slow us down. We're still growing. We're still having our receptions. We're still doing events. And I want you to just remind yourself tonight, right next door on the other side of this wall, don't leave. Stick around for our reception. It goes from 6 to 7:30, and usually it lasts a little longer than that. And that's really a great social networking opportunity to really talk to other people and kind of get ideas about what you just saw today. And a lot of the speakers will be there, so it's your chance to spend some time with the speakers one-on-one. Now, some of the music you're listening to, I just want to call out Grifter. Grifter really puts in a lot of time helping build a lot of the training rooms, but really he's an EDM fanatic, and that was a Dutch mix of only Dutch DJs. And apparently there's an electronic music festival this weekend in Amsterdam, so this is his homage to the music of the area. We're probably going to be playing that all day long. You might be a little, get a little used to that. Something new for 2014 for Amsterdam, we're constantly thinking about how do we grow the security community, how do we get people involved and excited, and one of the things is how do we bring in the new blood, how do we bring in the next generation and get them interested. And so we've started this Black Hat academic program where you write an essay, you submit it to us. If you get screened and if you get selected, you get a free admission to Black Hat. And so we tried that in the United States this last summer, and then we brought it to Europe. It was such a success. So we have about 50 to 60 students that have been accepted, that got admission to the conference for their first time because of what they wrote. So I know some of you might be a little shy, but if you're in the audience and you are one of the students and you're interested in being identified and having people talk to you, just raise your hand now, if anybody's in the audience. Great, I want to thank these people for taking the time to submit, and if you want, just go up and talk to them, right? Find out what they wrote about, why they got accepted. That would be really good. So, I'm going to point out that you should probably put your phones on vibrate. You should probably turn off the air raid sirens. And I want you to just take a minute and listen to Rod Sadowski. Rod's is a representative for RSA. He's the director of technology solutions for RSA, which is the security component of EMC. Rob's been around in the industry for over 12 years, but he's mostly focused on securing electronic payment systems and banking systems. And EMC has been a big supporter of Black Hat over the last 5 years. And what I really like about Black Hat is that we have supporters, we have corporate sponsors, and we really try hard to separate the content from the supporters. And so what I mean by that is we try really hard to be vendor neutral in our content because that's what gets us the best result. We're an applied conference. We really want to see the technology and how it's used. But we also want to connect you with some of the leading edge security vendors. And so that's why we have that room next door. So if you're interested in what they're up to, we've got some of the best companies in the world. And if you want to see what the researchers are up to, we've got them too. So we're really trying to create the best of both worlds for you. So I want to introduce Rob. You want to come on up? And when Rob's not saving the world in electronic banking systems, he's really just taking your money playing poker. And so we're thinking we might have a quick pickup poker game this evening if any of you are interested. So anyway, I want to introduce Rob.
Awesome.
And take it away.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Maybe you can clap after. So, Black Hat Amsterdam here in October. I think I just finally recovered from Black Hat and DEF CON in Las Vegas, so it seems about the right time to do this again. It's certainly an honor to be able to speak to you for a few minutes and precede a real pioneer in the industry like Adi Shamir and his talk that's going to be coming up. Jeff mentioned that Black Hat in the industry has evolved. In looking at it over the past 10, 12 years, the vendor's role has grown and changed. Most people think it was to sponsor parties or things like that. But I think the real reason why we're here, and Jeff touched on this, is the same reason you're here. It's the community. It's that level of interaction that we get with the community. It's the knowledge and the talent that's here in this room and back in the hotels that are too cool to come to the keynotes. It's the researchers, it's the practitioners, it's the frontline incident handlers, it's the testers, it's the coders, it's all of you. And this free and open exchange of information, whether you're on the practitioner side or on the vendor side. Because I think we know that's how we're going to make our products and services that we use better, more secure. It's how we're going to stay ahead of our adversaries, whoever we consider those adversaries to be. It's how we're going to learn about what works and a lot about what doesn't work. What are the good ideas and a lot about what are some of the bad ideas. And perhaps most importantly, it's how hackers, and I mean hackers in the truest, best sense of the word, think about testing and prodding and poking and getting to the protection and resiliencies of a system that we're looking at. And we've seen a lot of calls in the industry for better information sharing. In the wake of a lot of the incidents, very prominent incidents we've seen this year and in past years. And that really has to go beyond, basic indicators of compromise. It's sharing of the type of information that we're doing here over the next couple days at this event and that we've done in the trainings. And I think our challenge is to make that information more available, more consumable, more actionable, so that we can do what Jeff talked about to address the skills and people shortage that most people believe exists in our industry today. That we can use the information that we're generating today and the conversations we're having this week to train and bring up that next generation of people, the people that are going to be up here speaking at Black Hat in 2020, wherever that may be. It's the community that we know that's going to go forward and solve the hard problems, that's going to look at something like email and come up with concepts like digital signatures and public key crypto systems. It's the community that's going to bring forth the next leaders like our keynote speaker who's still going to talk about the insight and research that he's generating today. If we're going to assert our right to communicate and collaborate and innovate in today's environment, on today's internet, in today's digital world, it's the community that's going to lead the way. And we're very happy to be here this week and be part of that conversation. So I encourage you, just like Jeff did, to share, to learn, and interact, and have a great couple of days of briefings. So thanks very much, and I'm going to turn it back to Jeff to introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.
All right, so now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for Black Hat this year, Adi Shamir. And I mean, what's not to say about Adi Shamir? Highly contributory to the fields of computer science and mathematics. He's currently the Borman Professor of Applied Mathematics at the Weizmann Institute for Science in Israel. Perhaps most famous, for better or for worse, for being the S in the RSA public cryptography system. But he's also been a pioneer and an inventor in the differential cryptanalysis, the zero-proof systems, digital signatures, the Samir secret sharing scheme. And an aside, whenever we try to invite somebody of Adi's stature, highly sought after, very insightful speaker, it's always a roll of the dice if they'll be able to accept or if they're even interested. And so I was very proud to hear that Adi accepted immediately. He knew he immediately wanted to be here. And then the next problem was, what am I going to talk about? So it pushed him to actually come up with a new talk and push what he wanted to work on, what he wanted to research. So that makes this a really exciting talk because I'm always interested in pioneers in their field and seeing them evolve their thinking. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Adi Shamir, who's going to talk about differential analysis, past, public, and no, I'm sorry. Side channel, yeah, past, present, and future. So thank you, Adi. Come on up. Thank you.
So I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me. I've been This is supposed to be. Good. So I've been working in the field of cryptography and cryptanalysis for 38 years, ever since I graduated from kindergarten. And I developed some perspective on the field, but somehow I never managed to come to Black Hat. And this is a community which is close to my heart. Many of the papers that I've published are related to hacking type activities. So that's why when I got the invitation, I immediately accepted. And the problem was, of course, that after you accept it, you start scratching your head. At first, I thought that I'm going to describe to you a general overview of the field of side channel attacks. But, you know, for a keynote speech at Black Hat, you need something better than that. So I was really pushed to work on a totally new subject that I'll be able to present here for the first time. And I'm going to concentrate mostly on this. It's still can be considered as work in progress, but we have proven it experimentally in a sufficiently convincing way that I feel comfortable showing it now. So in those 38 years, one of the conclusions I got was that mathematical cryptanalysis is getting easier and easier over the years for a variety of reasons. First of all, we now have many more targets. In the good old days, there was only a handful of crypto systems that we could attack. Now there are hundreds of crypto systems. Some of them are designed by excellent teams, even by the NSA, who recently published Simon and Spec, two particular crypto systems. And others are designed by amateurs, so you have a field day in breaking all those schemes. By the way, the timer is not working here, so I forgot to turn it on. Another reason is that over the years, we have developed many more cryptanalytic tools. So now we have many hammers to work with. And we have also relaxed over the years the definition of success. If in the past, success in cryptanalysis meant finding the key within a reasonable amount of time on a reasonable computer, now the definition of success is finding some distinguisher which enables you to distinguish between the outputs of a crypto system and totally random junk within time which is slightly better than exhaustive search. So if you manage to reduce the complexity from 2 to the 256 to 2 to the 240, it's a publishable paper. We're also looking at less reasonable attack models. For example, we now consider related key attacks. They are considered valid attack models in which the attacker is allowed to encrypt the data with one key, modify certain bits of the key, and then encrypt the same data again with the modified key. How in the real world anyone will be able to achieve it is not clear, but we are playing these games. On the other hand, if you are trying to have a real impact, cryptanalysis is getting harder and harder because the major crypto systems incorporate into them a lot of the results that we have obtained over the years. So only a handful of major cryptographic crypto systems, ciphers, had forced practitioners to dump. Only a handful of mathematical attacks of the type that I described before forced everyone to stop using a particular scheme. I'm not talking now about implementations. Implementations have bugs all over the place. And protocols also have bugs which are discovered repeatedly. And this is the core business of what many of you are doing. But if you are talking about actually dropping a crypto system, then there are only a few cases that I could come up with from the top of my head. So, for example, in 1982, there were only 2 available publicly crypto systems. One was the RSA, and the other one was the Merkel-Hellman knapsack-based scheme. So in 82, I found the lattice attack, which killed it, and for many years, RSA was the only game in town in public key cryptography. DES was attacked by Biam and me in 1990, and in 93, Matsui from Japan developed a linear attack. So altogether, it convinced NIST that they should move away from DES, and they started planning for AES, Advanced Encryption Standard. A51, we found major problems in it in 2000. For those old enough to remember WEP in Wi-Fi, the Fleur-Mantin-Shamir attack killed it in 2001. Xiaoyun Wang in 2005 surprised all of us by showing major weaknesses in MD5 and in SHA-1, and actually the weaknesses in MD5 played a major role in some of the recent cyber attacks. And Carsten Knoll in 2007 showed that MyFair Classic is bad, but these are roughly all the examples. So, in fact, what we are doing today, in most cases, when we try to attack a major cryptographic scheme, is not to play the mathematical game, but to play a slightly different game. So the Blackbox standard model of cryptography, the mathematical cryptanalysis, assumes that the cryptanalyst has access to the ciphertext, and he can either know or choose the corresponding plaintext, and then his goal is to find either one key or in a 2-key system, both key, the secret key among them. And the encryption process itself and the decryption process are black boxes that the attacker has no access to. The model of side channel attacks is slightly different. It allows the cryptanalyst to have a peek into a slightly translucent encryption process in which not everything about the encryption process is totally hidden from view. You can get a little bit of information about what's going on during the encryption process. And by the way, the timer turns off all the time, so I have no idea how much time I have. OK. I'll keep looking at my watch, not because I'm bored. Let me show you an example. You all heard about Paul Kocher's power analysis, which he published in the late 1990s. And this was an extremely clever idea. He suggested that if you have access to the encryption device while it is working, try to record the exact power consumed by the device while it is performing the cryptographic computations. And the problem is how to turn these rapid fluctuations in power consumption into the cryptographic key. It's not always easy. So it was applied successfully against several crypto systems, many crypto systems, but it requires thousands of encryptions and some statistical methods. So you have to work fairly hard in order to turn those power measurements into a cryptographic key. But let me show you now an extremely simple way that will demonstrate how you can actually break RSA. And before I describe the attack, let me just give you a refresher course about the RSA scheme. So the secret operation is to take when you are trying either to decrypt a ciphertext or sign messages, that's when you are using the secret key. You are taking the input, like the ciphertext, and raise it to a secret exponent d, and reduce the result modulo a number n, which is the product of two large primes. So if you are if you try to use a secure key size, n could be 2,000 bit long, and the exponent, secret exponent d, is also 2,000 bit long. So of course, you cannot perform the operation of raising a 2,000 bit number to a 2,000 bit other number by multiplying x times x times x times x, etc., because the sun will cool down before you'll be done. So the way you do it is you do a sequence of squarings and multiplying. So for example, a small example, if you want to take x and raise it to the power 25, you do it by x squared, and then you multiply it by the original value x, so you get x cubed. You square the result, and you get x to the 6. You square it again, and you get x to the 12. Square it again, and get x to the 24. Multiply by the original x, and get x to the 25. So I'm abbreviating this as square, multiply, square, 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 multiply. And the algorithm is basically always square and sometimes multiply. And you multiply exactly when the binary representation of the exponent d has a 1 in it. OK, now the secret of the RSA secret key is this number, which is equivalent to the sequence of squares and multiplies, because these are just this is the binary representation of d. So the question is, how difficult is it to look at the power consumption curve? And this is a crazy function, and decide when did you multiply a number by itself, a 2,000-bit number by itself, and when did you multiply a 2,000-bit number by a different 2,000-bit number? Now, every multiplication looks slightly different, but I'm sure that even Intel's best engineers would not be able to crack this and be able to say that now you are multiplying a number by itself, and now you are multiplying two different numbers just by looking at this crazy power consumption. Because the power consumption basically tells you how many transistors are switched from one state to another state. And with billions of transistors in today's microprocessors, it's impossible to do this analysis. So, however, let me show you something. So here is how the power consumption during RSA operations looks like. It consumes more power than before it started, so you can easily determine the starting point. And now I divide it into pieces, so I can tell you that here, from this time to this time, it was doing a squaring, and during this time and this time and this time, it was doing another squaring, but between here and here, it was doing multiplication. But there's no visible difference whatsoever. However, I'll show you how to do it. So this is an idea I published in 2008 with several Japanese colleagues from Tohoku. So we are comparing two curves, not a single decryption operation, but two decryption operations. And I'm using them as an equality oracle. Namely, the microprocessor is a deterministic kind of device. So if I ask him to do twice exactly the same multiplication, exactly the same number of transistors are going to switch from one state to the other when I'm doing the first multiplication or when I'm doing the second multiplication. Okay, so if I'm at one time multiplied A times B, these are two big 2,000-bit numbers, and at another time I multiplied C times D and use the same algorithm, if A is equal to C and B is equal to D, then the two power consumption curves are going to look very, very similar to each other. If at least one of them, A is different than C, but B could be equal to D, that's enough in order to make the power consumption curves during the two multiplication operations look very different. But all you get is just equal, unequal. You cannot determine how unequal it is. Okay, so our goal now is to perform only two exponentiations, which takes a negligible amount of time, and compare the corresponding segments in the two power consumption curves. So you ask the smart card to exponentiate a random number x, I don't care what it is, and the number minus x mod n, that's just n minus x. Because n is a crazy looking number, n minus x looks, as a binary string, looks very different than x. So either you start from one value x, or you start from something that mathematically is minus x, but as far as the microprocessor is concerned, the bit representation looks totally different. Okay, now let's go through the exercise. I started in the two exponentiations with plus and minus x. Because they look different, when I do the squaring, the power consumption curve during the squaring will look different. But, and here is the big trick, after you square x and minus x, the difference disappears. If you square 3 and minus 3, the result is going to be 9. So the result is going to be the same at this point. Because it is the same and I square it, multiply it by itself, power consumption curve during this time is going to be, again, the same. Okay? So here the power consumption curve was different, but the result here was the same. Here the power consumption is the same and the result is the same. Now I took the same values and multiplied them, one by x and one by minus x. So the power consumption curve will look different, but the result will be the plus minus of each other. Good. So now I have two different numbers, the plus and minus of each other. I square, power consumption is different, but the result will be the same. Multiply, power consumption is different, the result is going to be plus minus of each other. Square, because my input was different, power consumption will be different, but the squaring will destroy the difference, and therefore I get the same. Same power consumption, same power consumption, same power consumption, different power consumption, same. You see the pattern. Every S which appears after another S will have the same power consumption. So all the strings of S's can be identified except the first one in the string by being the same. Now, because M cannot follow an M, I told you that you always square and sometimes multiply, the M's are isolated. So if I can identify all the S's except the first one, I get a bunch of S's here, a bunch of S's here. What could be in the middle? There couldn't be any S followed by S. There couldn't be any M followed by M. So it's just MS, MS, MS. That's the only way to fill it. So what you do is take the two power consumption curves. This is obtained from exponentiating x, and this is obtained from exponentiating minus x, and subtract them from each other visually on an oscilloscope. That's what you get. And now you just read the secret key of RSA with your with your eyes, with your visual system. You say, okay, this is not an S of the type I mentioned before. This is an S which is preceded by at least one S. This is an S which is preceded by at least one S. That's not of this type. So anywhere in between, I just write down MS, MS, and I found all the 2,000-bit secret key from two exponentiations. So this shows you the power of power analysis. Now, I'm going to run out of time if I continue to show you all the other things that I prepared here, so I'll skip several things. This is a paper that I published at Crypto 2004 together with Daniel Genking and Eran Tromer. And actually, it shows how we can break RSA by just listening to the computer. Listening, with a microphone. And this was awarded the Pony Award at Black Hat 2014 in the US as the most innovative research. So I'm going to skip the explanation, but this is what we achieved. You see, this is a laptop. It is performing RSA operations, and it is humming, making all kinds of normal noises. We didn't modify the laptop in any way. And here we have a microphone with a parabolic antenna. From 10 meters away, we can hear, and within 1 hour, we can completely break RSA. And we don't even need this parabolic antenna. If we just place a regular cellular phone, you see you're in a business meeting, one guy is using his laptop, you're sitting next to him, you place your cellular phone, it is listening to noises made by the nearby laptop, and again, within 1 hour, you can get the RSA key. So all kinds of crazy things can be done. How about tempest protection? We looked at tempest protection devices. You see, they are wonderful in order to stop all the electromagnetic emanations, but they look like honeycomb in order to let ventilation, to let air circulate, and therefore it's semi-transparent. So, of course, it will not stop the sound waves at all, and we could run it on a fully tempest-protected device without any difficulty. Okay, these are cache attacks. I don't have time to describe them, but they were sufficiently troubling for Intel that in 2010, Intel changed the design of their older microprocessors in order to avoid this particular cache attack. This was a software-only attack, which could be applied from halfway around the world, but I'll skip it because I don't have enough time. I'm going to get to the new stuff. So, this is work I've been doing in the last few weeks together with Yuval Elovich and Moti Guri from Ben-Gurion University. And every word in the title is important. We are doing long-range, bidirectional communication with an air-gapped computer which contains only untempered hardware. So you know that there are many interesting buildings around the world. And those buildings contain secrets. In the past, the secrets were kept in file cabinets, and you needed a human spy who will go in and photocopy it or use a Minox camera in order to take pictures or whatever. Today, all those secrets are kept in computers, and you need Cyberteks in order to extract those secrets. Now, when Bruce Schneier wrote a blog post immediately after the Snowden revelations, he was asked, how do you suggest protecting against cyber attacks? So one of the best recommendations he had, I also recommend using an air gap, which physically isolates a computer or local network of computers from the internet. So your network should not be connected at all to the internet. There should be no way to jump data across this air gap, and therefore you are going to be protected against cyber attacks. True, false? Okay, let's see. So, how to overcome air gaps? Of course, there is the hardware solution, and that's what Snowden concentrated on and described. So the hard part is one-time physical access to insert a hardware bug. This could be some kind of miniaturized transmitter or receiver. And after you modify the hardware, the fact that it's air-gapped is no protection because, it's going to transmit across the air gap the data and talk with the rest of the world. So here are the pictures of NSA guys opening computers or routers or other equipment while being shipped to happy customers. And here they put a device inside, and this is how one of the many devices that the NSA had developed, the ANT product division. So this is just a few millimeters across, and they put it in the ferrite connector. You have the VGA connector, or the power connector, it has a thickening in the middle, which has a ferrite core in it. And that's a very good place to put it. And then the whole contents of the screen is going to be broadcast. But we're not going to talk about hardware-based solutions. We're going to talk about software-based solutions. So here, the easy part is you need one-time logical access in order to insert some malware. And there are many, many attack vectors, how you can get even into highly secure systems the malware. Spear phishing, infected USBs, and patches which are digitally signed, presumably digitally signed by Microsoft, whatever. So let's assume that this had been done already. So you have a PC, and it has malware in it, but the malware is very isolated. It's lonely. It would like to, it has access to all the secrets in the world, but it wants to reveal them to the outside world. And how will it do it? So the hard part is how to talk repeatedly, not only once, with the planted malware in a totally air-gapped computer system. So the holy grail of cyber attacks is how to communicate with an air-gapped computer system in an inaccessible location when it uses only standard untempered hardware. Nothing is allowed to change in the hardware. It already contains some malware, which has access to the data. The attacker is far away. And far away, I mean more than a kilometer away, because I'm trying to attack now very high security area, which has probably fences and armed guards and dogs, whatever. And I would like to communicate in both directions, so both infiltration of data and exfiltration of data, in and out. So in such a situation, even relatively slow communication will suffice not to exfiltrate huge databases, but in order to issue some command and control instructions like activate, propagate to a new computer, obtain a particular file, erase that particular file, go to sleep. These are very short messages, so you don't have to send a huge amount of data. You might want to patch the malware program in response to new protective measures or new vulnerabilities found in the system. So the patch might, again, be a few thousand bits. In the exfiltrated filtration direction, you can either describe the hardware and software found in the system, so humans can look at it and devise better ways to attack. You can confirm receipt of the control messages. You can send encryption keys, which are 256-bit long. So if I can send a few thousand bits in or out, this might be enough in order to cause irreparable damage. So we wanted to actually run the attack on a particular location in Israel, and we thought, which location are we going to actually attack in our experiments? So you know that in Israel there's a lot of cyber research activity. The government is encouraging it, and the government had designated a particular city in Israel called Beersheba to be the capital of cyber research in Israel. And within Beersheba, there is a particular collection of buildings, a bit isolated, where most of the big R&D teams in cybersecurity are located. That's also where the civilian CERT is located. That's where the army is going to move all its cyber operations in the next few years. So if there is a target in Israel you'd like to attack, it's probably that one. So here is the building that we actually attacked. So if you look carefully, there is EMC, RSA, Oracle, all kinds of companies are located there doing their cyber research. Now, we were a bit worried because, we are doing all kinds of strange things around this building. We did it repeatedly. So we thought maybe we'll be challenged by the police or by the guards and we'll be arrested. So we had our university ID cards available with us. I'm not sure how much it would help. OK. So this is the building that we wanted to attack, and I'll show you the point from which we wanted to attack it. We wanted to be far away. So that's where we stood in order to attack, and we wanted to talk with a particular computer in a particular office in that building. Actually, it's on the 3rd floor, 5th office from the left. There are hundreds of computers, hundreds of offices there, and I wanted to attack that particular computer from this distance, which is 1,200 meters away. 3/4 of a mile. And remember, the computers there were protected. They were not connected to the internet. They got their power from a local generator. I'm not sure, but presumably they got their power line protected. So how can you do it? This is a view from the office that we were attacking. I'm going to show you results of attacks from several distances. So first, I'll show you some results from 200 meters away. We were actually standing at the end of the parking lot. And then I'm going to show you an attack from 900 meters away, and that's beyond the end of this train station. And then the 1,200 meters is going to be near the white building that you see there. So you're impressed, I hope, by the distance. Here is a quick movie of the whole area. So that's the train station. That's the parking lot. That's where I'm going to be standing in the attack. And that's the side of the building that I'm going to attack. OK, so here is the view of the office. Quite Spartan. But somehow we had to talk with the computer there, you see. There was a malware inside that computer which was eager to tell us its secrets. And how am I going to do it? So let me zoom out a bit and show you that there was an additional element. And that element was a printer. OK, what can I do with a printer? So you see, I have a printer here. So you see, I was standing next to it and concentrating very hard, trying to use my telepathic forces, thinking 0, 1, 1, 0. Didn't respond. So no chance from 1,200 meters. But then I started playing with it. So I was using a flashlight. That's a good flashlight. You see it, I can concentrate it. And you can even see the glowing surface of the LED. Everyone can see it. So I was standing next to the printer. And the nice thing about this flashlight is that it's good for bicycles also. So it flashes. Now, this is what I was doing. Sleep mode. OK. So I'm just flashing it while it is copying nothing, basically. What do you expect the result to be? Well, I'm going to show you a picture. You can probably guess. There was a scanning operation. So there was a line which was moving across. So that's what came out. Very beautiful black, white lines. OK, I can send something into the printer, because remember, the printer is connected to the internal network, and the malware is already inside the system. So the malware can have a look at what is the result. OK, but I didn't like using such a flashlight because it has visible light. So I wanted to see if this responds also to infrared light. So in order to do it, I took, this is a remote control for the cable television we have in Israel. And it has a light here, which is infrared. And I was just standing in front and doing a scan while pressing buttons repeatedly. Now, of course, you can go home today and try it yourself. So this is a fairly weak one, so you have to stand nearby. It's important that you run your experiment when the room is fairly dark. The darker, the better. It's best to have this at 45 or 30 degrees. So what actually, I'm lighting this white area, and the scanning line is picking up what it sees from above. Some devices are better, some devices are worse. Actually, home scanners or home printers are better because they shine a weaker kind of light, and they're also slower in their scan. So if you have access to a home printer, it's better than an office printer, which has a very quick scan and shines a very strong light, which overpowers this weak one. Okay, so what is the result that we got? So using this remote control, we got this. Let me enlarge it a bit. So for some reason, my remote control issued a colorful image. Some lines were green, some were red. I have no idea why my IR remote control did it. Other remote controls were black and white. But you can definitely see all the instructions that every button in your remote control is issuing in the form of for how long it was issuing light, for how long it was dark, and in this case, even what color it was. Okay, so we are on our way, right? I can send all kinds of interesting information just by shining light at an all-in-one printer, the multifunction printer, which has also a scanning feature. The next thing, we tried to use a stronger infrared light. And by the way, all this research was done together with two colleagues from Ben-Gurion University, whose names I mentioned before. So this is Yuval, and this is Moti, his PhD student. So what is the stronger light? We just took a floodlight, infrared floodlight, which is used in security cameras, and it lights your garden or a protected area. And what we did to it was to insert into the enclosure, it was big enough, a cellular phone, which could control the light. So it's not a floodlight, but it's a floodlight which is flashing rapidly, and we could call from halfway around the world to that cellular phone, and that cellular phone will send whichever message we want and modulate the light. So what happened when we were 25 meters away with this infrared? You don't see anything. It looks normal. So this is what we got. And let me enlarge it. This is an enlargement. And enlarge it some more. Beautiful transmission of data. OK, next, we decided to do some long-distance transmission. So we bought a laser, fairly strong one. We could buy an infrared laser, but then we wouldn't see exactly where we are aiming at, when we might accidentally blind someone. So while in reality you would use an infrared laser, which will not be visible, in our experiments we used blue laser. So we can take some nice pictures. You see we modified it with this, connected to a controller, these wires. And this is a homemade device. And it would issue any instruction you want and modulate the light which is sent by the laser. So we wrote a small program. You took a message like get the file topsecret.pdf. That's an instruction which I want to send to the malware which is already located on that computer. So it's translated into bits, and those bits are now sent. You can determine how many milliseconds a 0 is going to be, and how many milliseconds a 1 is going to be, and what is the length of time between successive bits. So you basically use a Morse code in order to send your instructions. Now, here is the way it looks from 200 meters away. I'm at the end. We are standing at the end of the parking lot. This is the computer controlling the laser. Now, can you see the blue light? And it is shining right here at the office that I wanted to attack. And it is modulated the way I wanted. So here is the scanned image. Just beautiful. Let me enlarge it. Enlarge it some more. So get topsecret.pdf, or erase everything on the target, or destroy yourself, commit suicide, or anything you wanted from 200 meters away. OK, let me now run the experiment from 900 meters. We always ran it at night, because during daytime it's going to be swamped by too much light. So we are standing at after the railway station, if you remember. And this is how the building looks like. And we are aiming the laser at a particular window. Here is the result. Again, just beautiful. OK. Now the final experiment. We stood next to that white building, 1,200 meters away. The hardest thing here was to make sure that we aim at the right position. So fortunately, there was some dust in the air. So you see, in this case, the laser was pointing a little bit high and a little bit to the left. So over the cellular phone, we gave instructions. Turn now the laser slightly to the lower, turn it slightly to the right until it hit straight at us. That's how it looked like when it was aimed correctly. And now, if we had used a stronger laser, which is more focused, we could be 5 kilometers away. But this one was not very well focused. So if you want to see how it looks like from the room itself, so the light was actually shining everywhere. In reality, it's going to be infrared, which is not going to be visible. But if it's blue, you can see while you are performing the scanning, the laser is blinking. And here is a movie that will show you how it looks like from the attacked office. You see, this is moving, this is scanning, and we are sending one message and then sending another message and another. OK? You got the idea. OK. Scanned result. Not as beautiful as before. I told you we had limited power on that laser. But still, if we enlarge it, fortunately, every line should be the same, either completely white or completely black. And therefore, I can average over the whole line and get a very, very good signal which lines are supposed to be lighter and which lines are supposed to be darker. OK, what are the attack scenarios? So the malware can initiate a scan at 3 a.m. in the morning. And the attacker sitting several kilometers away might just shine the infrared laser at the window of that office. And the malware is going to initiate a scan through a soft panel and get the scanned image and interpret it. That's very easy. So it will get the instruction. But somebody might notice the fact that the scanner suddenly starts operating when no one is in the office. So we also thought about another another approach. And the malware can wait until someone performs a real scan in the late evening. So the malware can then try to interpret the message obtained in the border of the resulting image. And then, in order not to leave any traces, it will clean it up. What do I mean? You see, we took the book Applied Cryptography of Bruce Schneier, and we put it on the scanner. And you see there is an air gap, another kind of air gap, between the end of the book and the end of the scanning surface. And when we shine light, the laser light, on this half-open lid, some of the light is going to be caught by the open edge there. So let's run an actual experiment. And this experiment was from 200 meters with full lights in the room. We wanted to simulate a real attack. So here is what we got, the scan of the book. And you see that here you can see at the edge the message that I sent out. And the malware will make sure that this edge will become neutral gray. So anyone who will look at the result after the malware cleaned it up will not notice anything. So let's enlarge it. So see, no problem at all. You can interpret the message without initiating any scan of your own, just waiting until someone initiates a scan, and then you can ride on top. OK, this is a similar experiment. This time I took the code book of David Kahn, another classic, and we Xeroxed it while we are 1,200 meters away with our laser. How did it work? Here are the results enlarged. David Kahn is just a cover for sending a message to the malware. OK, so how many bits can we infiltrate with this approach? Let's do a quick calculation. So assume that we scan at 600 lines per inch, dots per inch. Typical scanned paper is 10 inches long in the direction in which you are scanning. This gives us about 6,000 lines to play with. Now, we could, in principle, send 6,000 bits in a single scan by interpreting each line as being black or white and then sending 6,000 bits. But we were using a kind of Morse code, so we send either 1 or 2 bright lines to determine 0 or 1, followed by 1 dark line. So this will give us 2.5 lines per bit. So we'll have about 2,500 bits per single scan. But that's a bit optimistic because 1 black line might be missed. So several hundred bits can be safely sent in a single scan. As I told you before, if all you want is to do some command and control infiltration, several hundred bits is plenty. So we can achieve good control over the in direction if we only want to send a few hundred bits per scan. And of course, if people repeatedly scan multiple pages in each one, you send several hundred, you can send 10,000 bits without too much difficulty. How about the exfiltration direction? So, interestingly, we wanted to use exactly the same device. We didn't want to move away from such a successful device. So you notice that this device, when it is scanning, is producing some light. Now, I don't think that I can turn it over, but the light is very strong on the surface, and it's much weaker when it is reflected from this. And then we can try to catch it from a distance using very sensitive light measurement. So we are looking at the whole building, and we are looking at doing some image processing in which we compare the amount of light emitted from each one of the windows. Most of the offices are going to have the light permanently off or permanently on. And you can see the one window where the scanning operation happens when the light turns on and the light turns off. So you can try to use this natural light, which is happening when you are doing the scan. The malware can try to send information by initiating a scan, and the way you can do it is you can pick up you can send a few bits exfiltrate from the starting time of the scan, but this technique is very slow. So we were looking for ways how to increase the speed, the number of bits that we can send out. So we noticed that in this soft panel that the malware has access to, he can initiate a scan, and he also can cancel it at any moment. So he can initiate, wait 0.5 seconds or 0.1 seconds or whatever after the light turns on, and immediately cancel. This enables me also to reveal information by the length of time in which the light is turned on, and it allows me also to send many more bits because I don't have to wait the 20 seconds until the scan is complete. I can send a bit, several bits by the starting time and the duration, immediately turn it off, and then send a few additional bits. So it's slower than the infiltration direction, but certainly you can exfiltrate a cryptographic key without too much difficulty. So we will be sitting several kilometers away, looking at the whole building, taking pictures, taking a movie, and then interpreting the results by looking at light flickering in a particular window. But there's a problem that when we tried to check it, the amount of light was not very strong. Of course, with sufficiently sensitive equipment, you could catch it. But it's much better if you could look into the light source, because you know, when you are doing the scan, sometimes you are blinded by the amount of light that it produces. So while you from below, and we as attackers from below will not be able to see it, somebody looking from above will get much better signal. So we bought the following device. This is a Phantom Vision 2. Anyone knows what it is? A quadcopter, which has a GPS. So you can program it to go to any particular location you want, and it will hover there, and the GPS will keep it in the right location. It's going to be late at night, hovering 100 meters over the building in an optimal direction in which it is going to look at this laser from the top. It has a high-resolution video camera, which is stabilized, and therefore the whole attack can be easily carried out while you are kilometers away. Okay, so time to finish. Conclusions. We developed and experimentally verified a new technique. We call it scan gate. You know, there are all the gates, Watergate and Applegate and Bandgate, etc. So this is scan gate technology. And we are solving really the holy grail of cyber attacks in which you have managed to get malware into an air-gapped computer system, and it is totally protected against all the usual attack vectors, and somehow you want to send data in and get data out. And therefore, the all-in-one or multifunction printers can be the most dangerous components of air-gapped computer systems. If you have such a computer system and you have an all-in-one printer, throw it away. Thank you very much. Should I answer questions? Or?
So, how much time do we have left? We've got time for about 3 or 4 quick questions. So, if anybody's got one,
yes.
I mean, how do people usually keep the lid on these devices? I mean, I assume it's not kept open all the time.
So yeah.
Okay. So, the question is the lid typically open or closed? So, even if you close it, there are going to be cracks. If you noticed, when we were putting the book of Bruce Schneier, it was enough to have a small crack there for the light to get in. So I agree, it's going to be much harder attack. The results are going to be less spectacular if it's closed. But at my office, this is usually open. It's much more convenient because I have to scan a page, and then I take it away, and I forget to close it. Remember, I only have to get it several times correct when it's half open in order to do the infiltration attack. And by the way, remember that the attacker standing 1,200 meters or several kilometers away gets an indication that a real scan is in progress. So for the infiltration attack, I'm waiting until someone actually performs the scan, and then in many cases, the lid is going to be open. Yes?
What would you suggest to break through such an attack? Curtains or?
Okay, so we tried using translucent curtains, and we tried checking what happens when you have Venetian blinds. In both cases, there is no direct light which hits you. But, for example, in the case of Venetian blinds, the light can go hit one piece of the blind and then reflect from the one above it into the room. So you'll probably have to increase the power of the laser tenfold, but light can go through the translucent light blinds and Venetian blinds. And if you remember the picture I showed you, you don't have to hit with the laser here. You don't have to hit with the laser a particular point on the open lid. It's enough to light the whole area of the room, and there will be reflections from the ceiling and from the sides for this to leave noticeable marks. So it can be attacked unless you totally protect the office from any incoming light, which very few people will do.
So curtains as a new security measure?
Yes. Black curtains. Yes.
How do you interpret the scanned lines at the software level? So you scan the document.
Right.
The malware, is it kind of OCR?
No, the malware is looking at the scan is not in order to print something, but in order to scan into a file. Many people are scanning data, not in order to get the immediate printout, but the picture of the scanned document is sent to the file system. The malware presumably has access to it, especially since the scanned image might have no security designation. It's not a top secret scan. So the malware will look at the directory in which all scanned images are stored, pick the latest one, and look at the edges and see, is there any message for me? Very easy. Yes?
So actually the last thing that you guys need to do here to program a malware is going to operate the lid automatically, you know?
Okay, we try to look for scanners which have open source drivers. Those which have it are going to be much easier to manipulate because they might even give you the ability to have two levels of lighting. It might have strong lighting or weak lighting. I'm not aware of a device which has it, but if you could modulate the light, then even in the exfiltration direction, you'll be able to very quickly send, in a fraction of a second, a bit. But we couldn't do it. So the only way we could do it is to start and stop. Of course, having access to additional functions such as raising the lid or lowering the lid will be wonderful, but I don't think there are any such devices.
Also, these devices have a hard disk inside, so maybe if we can compromise the firmware inside, so everything that is stored on the hard disk, we can... In order to compromise the firmware, in many cases, you need physical access to it. And I consider this to belong to the class of attacks that Snowden revealed, namely, at some point, you are modifying the hardware. I wanted to attack a system which is already in place. I had no chance to touch it. I had no chance to modify anything, not firmware, not hardware, not plant any transmitters. I was just thinking, what can I do? Having only a malware inside, and that's it. Last question. Yes?
Is it possible to implement malware using this technique?
Of course. If the malware is short enough, I can send it in, and then this is going to be placed in the correct location by the malware which is already in. I don't know how to do it with no malware whatsoever at the beginning, but I can patch the malware, I can send new attack vectors to the malware which is there. So updating the malware and improving it and protecting it from new counterattacks is easy. Placing the malware to begin with, I don't know how to get this picture interpreted by anything if there is no change in hardware and no malware inside the system. If you have an idea, it will be wonderful. Last but one, yes? Last plus one. Sorry.
Assume that the computer is turned on during the night.
Many computers are left on.
Okay. And also, could you do this with, instead of the printer, some other input device like a microphone by sending...
Microphone has no chance from several kilometers away. I thought about it, but the sound is going to be so strong that the whole neighborhood is going to wake up. You don't want to put air raid sirens and use them. So microphones are excellent, you know, from 10 meters away, 50 meters away, but no chance of working beyond that. Okay, thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Okay, just a quick reminder, normal sessions begin. This was a session room, so here in that direction are all the speaking tracks starting at 10:15. So you've got a little bit of a break, and at 10:15 we'll kick off all the sessions. And I'll see you all at lunch. Thank you.